Hello, I am Shyboy616 with Like a Shark, and welcome to part 3 of Sharks Week 2024. And look, we have our next set of movies to discuss. I haven't watched this guy in a while, but I remember watching I Hate Everything, and one of his videos was about Shark Exorcist. And he talked about how it was quite possibly one of, if not the worst movie he had ever seen. And so that's of course I'm going to check out today. But the way I got it, so Shark Exorcist and Shark Exorcist 2. The first movie I got in a triple pack. May or may not be checking these two out. And I was looking up stuff about this. Apparently 2 only happened as like celebration to the first movie, as it had been 10 years since it came out when they decided to do this one. And well, after watching it, I can't really decide why and who in the world was demanding a sequel. So let's just get into it. Shark Exorcist. Now the one thing I was excited about, because something I had mentioned last year, some of the movies I was watching, I feel like a good runtime for most of these shark movies is between that 80-minute and below. Most of the ones that pushed to 90 to 100 minutes maybe was a little much for what it actually has to offer. And if I thought the movies from last year were bad, and with Ouija Shark just done yesterday, and now today we're on Shark Exorcist, I was so wrong with how bad those movies were last year. They're still not good. They're definitely as bad as I said they were, but these are even worse. So because I refused to rewatch this movie in any way, I made sure I took notes of everything that happened so I could recap it without having to go back and look at anything. Because this movie is only 70 minutes, so it makes the time requirement I had hoped for. But something happens in every scene of this movie, but it feels like nothing happens at all. And I need to point this out just from the very start. The audio in this film is awful. It's horribly mixed, if at all. They clearly didn't have separate sound equipment using whatever was built into their camera, which was maybe a good chance their phone part of the time. They clearly never heard of windscreens or dead cats. Like, they needed something on that audio, because in almost all the shots outside, it is way too much wind. You just hear like, you're getting slapped. And every time they put music in, it is simply too loud to understand whatever dialogue is supposed to be there. The movie opens with the nun sacrificing a woman to a shark. The woman is yelling at the nun, saying like, she's like, "What have you done? You're awful. Someone is going to do something about this." And as she's yelling at her, she gets stabbed by the nun, which again, if you knew this someone had to be brought to justice or whatever, you were kind of trying to get revenge on them, why were you actively telling them when you more than likely knew they were probably going to kill you? And the shots of the shark underwater are just this CG shark in a blue space that's red with glowing eyes. I don't know if they actually use this same shot several times, but we get several similar shots throughout. We don't really see the shark do much else than going one side of the screen to the other. After this, we cut to a group of girls making their way to the beach. They're just your basic generic group of, I'll say, college girls, and one of them has their feet hanging out the window, and it starts feeling very Tarantino. Nothing they say here matters, and we get to the beach. They're just kind of talking about whatever, doing whatever. 2 of them set out towels and go lay on them, while the friend goes off into the water for a swim. And in case you couldn't guess it, yes, she does get attacked by the shark. And some of the worst practical effects ever, because we're supposed to believe that she got this horrible injury on her leg. It's just a gloop of red in the shape of, I guess, what they want it to be a wound, but it just looks like they just had blood run down the leg and some of it just kind of like clawed it up and got stuck in one spot. And the other weird part about this, from the opening, we're led to believe that that girl was eaten, whereas this one was just attacked and washed back up. So we'll see what happens from there. We're then introduced to another one of our key characters, a paranormal investigator with their own show, you know, those ghost hunting type things. And she goes there believing there's an evil presence here and trying to make a link with it. So she does this whole thing where she's trying to link herself to the devil to communicate. It works, and she kind of just pops up several times and does this throughout the movie, so I'm not going to say it every time unless something different happens. So our girl that was hurt, Allie, she gets out of the hospital and her friend goes and picks her up. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know the friend's name because I don't really think they say her name until pretty close to the end of the movie. And they're talking about how it's like, "Oh, you had a chunk bit on your leg and now here you are just walking?" She's like, "I'm fine." And she rips off the bandage and literally she's fine. So I get it's supposed to be a paranormal thing, but it just seems so goofy where in the first place it didn't look like she was injured, but it was supposed to be a chunk out of the leg. And yeah, maybe there should be an injury there, but that's a part of the weirdness that's going to set what's going to happen with Allie. She decides to, you know, screw off, say bye to her friend, and then she starts hitchhiking and gets picked up by some random guy. She lures him into the water, sacrificing him to the devil-possessed shark. Turns out, I guess the bite was a way of possessing her to become a helper. We didn't cut to a priest that I guess got a letter about what just happened, and it's the same guy we saw just get eaten. He's supposed to be the brother, and as important as this seems to be, we don't see the priest come back till pretty far into the movie from this point. This is another one of the moments where we have the paranormal show get brought up, and we have a rival show actually come out to say, it's like, you know what, we did the research, it's just a shark, there's nothing paranormal going on. And this sets up, I guess, a battle between the shows, but nothing really comes of it later on. In this next scene, I'm still confused by it. I couldn't figure out what this was supposed to be. We see this woman in white getting covered in blood, just freaking out like she's possessed in a cemetery. And then we see this group, I'm assuming they're supposed to be witches holding some ritual. So I don't know if what they're doing is what made the woman start acting like that, or if they're trying to summon whoever that was. It's just a weird ritual. The main girl gets possessed, the other girl's like, oh, she's faking it, but then I guess she actually does die. And then it shows the priest again, like it transitions back to him, like maybe he was reading about this. It's a really random scene, and it has nothing to do with the shark as far as I can tell. It just kind of happens. And this next scene's weird because it doesn't really have a resolution. It once again just sort of happens, but it's at least linked to the shark. We see this girl that I guess is supposed to be a woman with some special needs. It's very awkward acting where it's more cringeworthy. She's obsessed with sharks, and this is going to be Allie's next victim. She gets taken back to a pool this time. It's not the lake. So apparently the lake doesn't matter. She can go wherever and do whatever. Eventually she convinces the special girl to get into the water with her just by flaunting around, I guess. And then it cuts to Allie waking up in bed suddenly like she's scared. And I find it important to say that because it makes stuff that happens later not make sense that she woke up the way she just did. We see that the girl from the paranormal show is actually possessed, and the girl from the rival show is tracking her because she wants to expose her for being a fake. And then she gets puked on when she confronts her. We don't see anything happen after this. We don't know if that girl's dead or also possessed now. No, this happens and then we just forget about it. Next thing we see Allie making another sacrifice to a girl in a river, so we don't even know where this is in terms of the lake versus the river. It's just another body of water somewhere. And then we see a random drawn out scene of a jogger, you know, doing his thing, and it's not like he's looking for anything. He's literally just jogging and happens to see the body, and he's freaking out, panicking. They felt the need to make him say this weird thing. It's supposed to be a joke, I guess, but it's really just weird and creepy that they threw it in, where he says, "Still hot, I do her," while he's actively panicking and vomiting over seeing a dead body in the river. Very poor taste scene that wasn't done very well. I feel like, I don't know, there's ways to do these weird offensive things, but this was not it. Next we cut to a sorority girl with a couple possible pledges going out to the lake. What she wants them to do as a part of the ritual if they want to join. They're supposed to go into the water where the shark is at and stay there for 10 minutes and then come back. But while she's trying to convince them to do this, the shark jumps out and eats her instead. And what's funny is the shot of the shark is just this weird like infrared filter that's flashed over a shot of a shark coming out of water that only lasts maybe not even half a second. They didn't even make use of that CG shark. We finally see Allie's friend go to the priest, and now he's actually involved and is going to do something about these weird things happening. Because even though they haven't shown her, I guess she's been seeing Allie act strange and wanting to constantly be around water. And I thought of this. At this point we've made it to the 40-minute mark. We haven't even seen or heard about the nun. We then get a thing that a lot of these cheap movies love doing, which is having long, drawn-out shots because they clearly couldn't think of anything else to make up the runtime. And these shots are usually just people walking from one place to another, and we're just watching these people at a fair. We have this guy and his girlfriend, but the guy seems really bored of the girl. We see Allie stalking them, and then we see that the friend and the priest are there as well trying to find Allie, which somehow they know she's there. I don't know what brings them there because they don't make it look like they followed her in. It looks more like they just so happen to be there and are looking for her. Eventually that random couple, the boyfriend says, he's like, you know what, I'm done. So the girl goes off crying, and then he's by himself so Allie can finally reach him. So she corners him, and then it shows she has shark teeth, and they even cut to this little painting on the side of one of the vans or trucks that has a vampire on it. But no, it's very clearly supposed to be shark teeth. She's possessed by the shark, and then she starts attacking him. But then the priest comes in just in time. And now we're to the actual exorcism. This is the only attempt at an exorcism here, because we're not that far into the movie. We haven't hit that hour mark yet. I already knew when I saw this scene, it's like, this exorcism is not going to last very long. It's going to maybe last 2 minutes, and then we're off to something else for the next 10 or so, and then maybe we'll finally be getting close to credits. And I was right. The exorcism is kind of funny though, because Allie's just poorly tied to a tree. During it, the friend even asks, have you done this before? And the priest admits, he's like, no, I've never even been asked or tried to do this. So he's kind of freeballing it. And the friend, I'm pretty sure this is the tagline of the movie, she randomly says like, you're gonna need a bigger cross or something stupid like that. And I think that is actually just a tagline for the movie. Allie starts doing the whole, you know, the Exorcist thing and starts vomiting and mocking the priest. So you see the priest actually reaching out, he's like, I'll kill you for this, starts strangling her. You know, forgetting the fact that he's supposed to be doing an exorcism and that was the demon doing all that. He accepts taking the demon, so it's no longer an Allie, and instead is possessing him. And even though this didn't happen when Allie was first possessed, immediately once the demon's in the priest, they attack and bite the friend. And then of course, because we hadn't seen it in a while, we get a random shot of the shark just coming out of the sky. And now we're following some random woman. Yeah, she's going to the beach, and I say that like this, it's like, yes, it's technically a beach, but she's going to lay down in some grass and dirt. So we see her lay down, and she ends up falling asleep, which I find that a really dumb thing to do, especially for all by yourself, falling asleep in a public open area. And this is why. Some dude, literally someone we've never even seen before, comes up with his phone and starts snapping pictures of her, and we're watching this happen. We have the shot of just watching her lay there, and then we have the shot of watching the dude circle around her taking all these photos. And then, because the dude wasn't creepy enough, I guess, he looks at the photos he just took over her while she's still laying there asleep, and we look with him. It's just a long held shot of this dude flipping through his phone of these creep shots of some girl in a bikini laying down. And then he leaves. She doesn't wake up while he's there. He leaves, and then she wakes up only to get attacked by the nun that we completely forgot about for the rest of the movie since the very beginning. And I looked, this is 58 minutes in the nun's back, and the movie's only 70 minutes. So the movie's almost over at this point. And because I guess they figured someone would ask about it, but that girl from the very beginning that was first sacrificed comes out of the water and attacks the nun. And this is presumably feeding her to the shark that she was already supposed to be fed to. I don't know, maybe she made a deal down there and got the nun down there and said, I don't know, it doesn't make sense, because it doesn't seem like the shark ate her, but it ate all these other people, with the exception being Allie, who had also possessed. And then, well, when it went into the priest, it bit the other girl, so maybe she's about to be possessed now too. It's a lot of things happening that are inconsistent that they just refuse to explain because they don't know themselves what to actually do with it. And I finally got the friend's name. It's Emily. Emily starts to do what Allie was doing and being drawn to water. And there was a third friend that from the beginning, and I was wondering about them. I was like, did they not care or something? That friend is finally back to see Emily, and then she's like, hey, what's going on? And then the shark jumps out of the water and eats her. And guess what? Credits. This movie has the nerve to have an after credit scene after 2 minutes of credits. This puts us at the 1 hour and 2 minute mark. So at the 1 hour mark, we made it to credits. 2 minutes later, we get an extra scene. And all we do is watch this random girl we had never seen before at an aquarium, just looking around. She's freaking out over the shark plushes, and it's a very long shot of watching her play with these plushes. Like, they either had to know these people at the aquarium, or they just had no business at that and said, it's like, you know what, do what you want over there. Because there's no way they just walked in and let her be like, whoo, playing with all their plushes on the shelf. She goes around some more, looks at fish. She has a little toy shark, not the plush one, it's another one of those like little plastic ones you can get at Walmart. She just starts kind of rubbing it all over herself, and then she suddenly starts acting possessed, drops the shark, and spits some, I don't know, it looks orange. I don't know if it's more vomit or a mix of blood or something, but looking directly at the camera, at you, the viewer. And then more credits. And believe it or not, there's still something else they wanted to show us. They just show that first paranormal girl that got herself possessed by making that link with the devil, and they show that she's at this building. Maybe we're supposed to assume or realize it's supposed to be the Capitol, but that's it. And that is Shark Exorcist, and if you could not tell with the way I was explaining this movie, I gave this thing a 1. Despite being as short as I had hoped it would be, they clearly didn't know how to still make a feature-length runtime, making long drawn-out shots, and keep making up stuff that they didn't know how to actually link together. And that is just a sign of a bad movie. It's got bad direction, bad writing, and of course bad acting. They couldn't even at least saved it with the effects or the action that they decided to put in. Like, I feel like there's definitely an idea there with a possessed shark. I mean, we had the whole thing with the demon megalodon and the black demon, and that failed even on a much higher budget. It just ends up really boring. It feels like there was no creativity involved. It honestly kind of made me angry. The fact that there's just so many of these, because if you look up, there's all sorts of shark movies that kind of sound like that, and not even just shark, monster movies. So it just has you wonder how there's still a market for this, because there's not nearly enough people like me actually going out of their way to buy and watch these. But of course, 10 years later, it's like, you know what? That was pretty cool. Let's do that again. And now we are on Shark Exorcist 2. Unholy Waters. I wanted to say Shark Waters for a second, but I think that's a completely different movie. You're gonna need an even bigger cross this time. Last time we just needed a bigger cross. This time we need an even bigger one. And this thing says nothing in terms of what the plot's going to be, other than just when you thought it was safe to back in the holy water, Shark Exorcist possessed flesh-eating demon shark is back. This time no one is safe, especially a new priest who swears to stop hell's ultimate evil. And what's funny, no one comes back from the first movie, so it's not even like the same priest is the one involved. We don't even know what happened to the priest. They just completely forgot about that. I kind of thought that was going to happen here. Kind of explained, I guess, a little bit, but let me show you this. This one, like I said, this is also Wild Eye releasing, which apparently just a go-to for these cheap crap monster movies. Also has the clear case with some art in it. Not even art, and I'm not even sure if that's a screenshot because I don't remember getting a shot of that girl like that. But there's an alternate special effects cut of the film where it's literally the whole movie, but any shots there was effects, it's an alternate take. There's only 2 differences, and I will tell you them right now. I just skipped around to see them. There's a shot in the beginning where we're getting a backstory. It's supposed to look like an old reel of film, like one of those really old, maybe you found it in someone's attic home movie, but instead it's replaced with something that actually fills the whole screen and it has a brown filter over it. And then any shots of the shark use the CG shark that I have, but they used a random CG shark that you can just get online yourself if you want to. Not something that they made. Shark shots, sharks. I feel so dumb. And there's some shots where they used a puppet in tandem with the random CG shark that anyone else has. The shark CG in this actually looks pretty cool. It's obvious CG, but it looks interesting at least. And despite this movie being made 10 years later, they either didn't learn anything or just refused to do anything different. The audio is just as bad in this movie. And it looks like a lot of it was in fact shot on a phone. And not very well, and probably not on a very good phone. I noticed something whenever I checked how long this one was. The DVD lied to me. This one's actually longer than the first Shark Exorcist, because something different about this one. This one has very long scenes, half of which nothing interesting or relevant happens. And did I say the sound issues were just as bad as first? No, they're actually worse, because there's points where the audio quality just straight up changes. Like, you go from maybe, you know, the new iPhone and Samsung actually picks up pretty good video and audio. It's like they switched something like those random camcorders you could get, but not one of the newer ones that are a little nicer, but like the really old ones that were and have always been crap, where it sounds really thin and tinny. I don't know how it happens, because it looks like they're using the same exact camera, but then the audio just totally shifts and you can barely understand anything. So again, the notes I wrote for this one, I wrote down everything that happens in this movie. So it looks like a lot happens. No. Nothing happens. We get an opening, and the way I summarize it in my notes was, none has PTSD. We don't get it totally explained until a little later. When I say a little later, I mean quite literally the next scene. We say that there's in fact an origin story for the satanic nun. Something happened where she decided to turn away from God and turn to the devil, and the devil in turn gave a shark that they possessed. Now we see a random mom and daughter at a lake, and the daughter really wants to go swimming, but the mom's trying to convince her, like, oh, you know what? No, you don't want to. So she strips down like she's about to go swim. She's like, ooh, this water's too cold. Ooh, and she really drags it out, and then a shark comes up and eats her. And then somehow the kid didn't notice this happen. It's like, Mom, where are you? It's like, really? You didn't see that happen? You're not panicking right now? But like I said earlier, the CG actually looks kind of cool. And then I'm watching these opening credits. I couldn't even remember if the first one had any quite like this. There's a lot of Japanese names under executive producer, and I'm assuming that these are all crowdfunding. And that brings me back to Ouija Shark from the last video, having a lot of weirdly Japanese stuff. Maybe there really is a cult following for these types of movies over there. 3 editors? You're telling me this movie needed 3 editors? After watching it, I can't even think of what the first guy did, let alone 2 others. We're then introduced to our new priest. He's not related, like the guy being a brother to that first victim. He knows who he was though. And I guess the priest died or something from what he did. Maybe they actually do straight up say that. I was kind of half listening. And now we see this guy trying to hitchhike, make his way to wherever he needs to go, and he ends up getting picked up by a nun. I guess he felt safe around the nun, so he confided in her, saying the reason he's on the run all by himself is that he thinks he got a girl pregnant, but he doesn't want to take responsibility. So the dude essentially says he's kind of a piece of shit. The nun then offers the guy something to help, like, ease him, I guess. I don't remember exactly how she brings it up. So he takes it. She drugged him. She then tells a story about her sister, another nun. Turns out the nun from the beginning is her sister, and what had happened was she had fallen for the priest, he got her pregnant, and then when the head nun found out, she killed the baby, and this led the nun on her satanic rampage. As she's going off to sacrifice him at this random lake, another guy is there and sees the whole thing happen. The guy being sacrificed gets his head eaten off, and then the guy seeing what had happened gets stabbed by the nun, and the stab looks so awkward, where when the shot happens of the stabbing, I couldn't tell if it was just a PNG of an arm with a knife going through, or if it's actually her doing it. We're then introduced to yet another set of people. Maybe these will be our main people finally. It's a couple friends, 2 girls going to a zipline park. One girl really wants to go to the beach, the other's like, no, you need to have a good time. I really want to see you have fun. So she eventually gets her to go on the zipline. This movie just has things happen and you watch it for a really long time. And this one's the worst offender because they're really just watching her go on a zipline at this park that looks completely empty. One of the workers even looks directly at the camera at one point. They finally end up at the beach like the girl originally wanted to. And I guess the whole reason they're here is because she just went through a breakup or something. She's trying to tell her, it's like, no, what you need is to get with a man. You need to, like, you know, get in there, get some action. And then the friend ends up, they kiss. So I guess now they both decided they're gay. Not sure if that's how it works all the time, but okay. So the girl that wanted to be here, she goes off into the water having a good time, and then she's about to get attacked by the shark. The priest was somehow already following them back at the park into the lake. How did he know to stalk these 2 specifically? And he just raises a cross and it like blasts a shark back. Like he raises the cross and the shark just kind of like it just flies off. Sorry, like a shark. But it's just so goofy. It's like this couldn't have happened with the first shark. Like if they had a cross, it was just gonna fly back. And the way they explain it, I think it's supposed to mean that the actual devil himself is in the shark. It's like he's that weak to the cross that he just gets blasted. They get back to a house and they think everything is fine. The girls are just thinking, it's like, you know what, we could be a couple. You know what, let's make tonight nice. Let's get some wine. So the girl that was attacked, she goes off to go find the wine, but it turns out she's being stalked by the nun and I guess was possessed by her in some way that she gets drawn out of the house and eaten by the shark. We're then introduced to our other main characters. I wasn't paying attention to timestamps of this movie, but I'm pretty sure we're kind of far in at this point with how they dragged everything out. So we have like this girl that looks like she's maybe a stripper or something, and then her deadbeat boyfriend. But we have this weirdly long sequence of just watching her look at outfits laid out on a bed. You can't even say it was that much for the purse shots because it's awkwardly not that well focused on her and just kind of a wide shot of the whole thing happening. She then goes out and talks to the guy saying, so, you know what, I really need money. I really want to go to Destin. And I'm gonna bring it up now. If you watch this for whatever reason and you want a drinking game where you might black out, so maybe just do swigs or chugs instead of something else, anytime the word Destin is said, take one. Trust me, it's gonna get pretty crazy later. She really wants to go, but he's not willing or ready to pay up. So she says, you know what, I got a job anyways, I'm gonna go be a party dancer. It's like, no, you can't do that, you know, you can't trust other men. It's like, that's why I got this. This guy's like, oh, what's this actually gonna do? And he sprays himself with it to prove it, and then he ends up writhing on the floor. And let me just say, none of these actors are very good, but these 2 are quite literally the worst. So the guy's running the plane asking for water. It's like, okay, I'll get you your water, but are you gonna take me to Destin? But the guy's refusing the whole time, saying she's crazy or whatever. And then she essentially breaks it off and dumps the water on the floor. Despite being next to the sink, she could have at least dumped it in the sink. No, she dumps it on the floor and then leaves to go on her job. She gets there and then finds like, oh, is this the party? And she looks very confused because only one guy is there. The guy that answered the door. He just hired the dancer for himself, which is really weird, sad, and creepy. Notice how we're not getting back to the shark in any way, shape, or form. We just watch her grind on him for a few seconds and then they play a game because she's trying to convince this guy, at first to give her the money, but then instead to take her to Destin. So they come up with a game. They have to come up with a category and name 5 movies involving it. You name your actor and 5 movies they were in. They do several, you know, big name actors, but one of the weirdest ones I thought was Marilyn Monroe. It's like, okay, I know everyone knows who he is. I feel like there's not that many people that actually name movies from her. I don't know, maybe that's just me. But the guy brings up Charles Bronson, which I thought was a really random one to bring up. And they could have been so funny right here and had the girl just list off every single death wish, because there are in fact 5 of those movies. But no, they do Death Wish and some others, which I was like, okay, cool, but it would have been way funnier if they went for that joke. Eventually, of course, she wins, and then they're gonna make their way to Destin, just like the girl's been wanting this whole time. And believe it or not, I think we're like halfway through the movie at this point, and that's all that's happened, and we're still not back to the shark. Thankfully, the scene finally ended, and now we're back to the house where the 2 girls and the priest were at. Let me explain this scene and how stupid this movie is. You're telling me the girl says like, oh, let's have some wine. The girl goes to go get the wine. Maybe she could have thought, it's like, she's taking a while, maybe I should go in there with her. Maybe she can't find it. I'll go help her look. It was nighttime when this was happening. This next scene is during the day, the following morning. That's when they realize she's gone. Not the girl that was waiting on her to come back and like say a minute with the drinks for them. No, they both come out and say, where is she? It's, you went to bed not wondering why she didn't come back from literally the next room over with your wine? And they realize she's dead out on the front lawn. So that means not only did you not notice she didn't come back, you didn't hear anyone open the front door and leave. The house isn't that big. And if you've ever lived in a house, you'll know, you'll hear when someone's at that door unless there's something really loud happening. And in this case, nothing was happening. So they should have realized something was wrong when the door just suddenly opened. So then to cope with it, she goes to an aquarium and just starts looking at fishes and stuff and tries asking them what happened. You went this delusional this fast? Could have figured you were stupid though from the fact you didn't realize she didn't come back, that maybe something was wrong. And the reason I thought it was funny, she's like, what happened? It's like, she got eaten. what more do you want to be told? You saw a piece of her left somehow. And now we're back to the party guy and the dancer girl, and if it was more enough, they literally just go to a Kroger because they want to make a stop, and the girl really wants to drink and get some white wine. She does it like that the whole time. And we actually just watched them walk around the Kroger for a couple minutes. It's really weird and boring. And it's at this point, I brought up earlier, you should do a drinking game with the Destin thing. She specifically says it so many times back to back, and when you think it's gonna stop, it doesn't. We're now finally at the beach, and if you look at the runtime, you'll realize, holy crap, we're at the end of this movie. Nothing has happened at all. At least the first movie had something happening in every scene, and we had some back-to-back of the shark doing something. Even if we're not really seeing the shark, we knew, oh, someone's about to die or get eaten. No. We haven't even really gotten back to the shark even after seeing someone had already died. The death count of this movie is only at 3, and only 2 of them were with the shark. So Dancer Girl's excited, only to realize, hey, wait a minute, where did you take us? The guy actually took her to a completely different beach. They didn't go to Destin, they went to Blanton Beach, the place where the shark attack from the beginning happened. Sorry, that means our death count's at 4? Yeah, 4, I forgot about the mod. Maybe 5, because they make it sound like the girl died too. So she's mad because she's at a redneck beach. It's like, you couldn't tell when you're going past some dude's house to get to the beach. Like, it's just a casual neighborhood and they're just driving into the beach, which at least this time it's a nice sandy one. So she's mad, even though she was excited initially when she didn't realize. But he's like, what, we're still at the beach, you can have a good time here. But she wanted to, you know, the fancy hotel and everything. So they're fighting over it. And then that girl comes up, for some reason, specifically with these two, despite there being other people at the beach, saying, and then she's talking to them about the shark attack. And the part about this scene that really annoys me, they're very clearly in completely different locations. It's to the point I doubt these actors ever actually met each other during the course of shooting. And it's just so poorly because it's like, you couldn't have picked a better location or green screen the other girl to look like she was maybe at a beach, if not the same beach with them. But she's essentially breaking it down to that she wants to sacrifice herself to the shark to end whatever's happening. And I don't know how she thinks sacrificing herself specifically is going to stop the shark's attacks. I don't think the shark cares. The party guy, he ends up going into the water himself to, you know, save everybody somehow. I don't know, but he went for it. Like, some respect on that. He's like, alright, shark to fight, I'll do it. He does end up dying though, and if anything, he probably was the best character in the movie, so a little disappointing, I guess. And again, because this priest is apparently magical, but not enough to come in when it actually matters. The priest pops in with his cross, and that ends it yet again. He didn't do anything different from the last thing. He stuck out the cross and the shark's just gone. Dancer Girl's very sad that he died because he kind of sacrificed himself and everything, and she feels so bad about what she did, pretty much tricking this guy to take her out on a vacation, not actually caring about him, but then, you know, she comes around on that, and the priest says, like, you know what, all is fine, you can be forgiven, blah, blah. It's like, here's some holy water in the case you ever need it. And right after this, the nun, also much like the priest, magically appears and stabs the priest. The dancer then gets to make use of this holy water just as soon as she was given it, and throws it on the nun, who melts to death. And now we cut to some other random girl at the beach, but here's the thing that I find really funny about this shot. It's like a random PSA, but this girl is very clearly on a green screen, and the beach they have isn't the beach they're shooting at. It's like, y'all really couldn't have gotten this girl to the same beach you're already filming at to film this, but you had to green screen her onto some random stock footage beach. And now, while the credits roll, and the other way thing about credits, they're not centered either. They look crap, they're way too big. We get another scene. It's the paranormal investigator girl from the first movie giving a breakdown about what happened at this beach, because I guess she was fine after. No idea about her competition though. And she's watching this dude just, I don't know what he's trying to do, some internet thing in an attempt to go viral, you know, and he gets attacked by a shark and we hear like eating sound effects.
Oh shit! It would appear.
And that is Shark Exorcist 2. Way worse than the first. I didn't even think that was possible. So, of course, it also has to get a 1. And that's how I feel after these movies. Like, do I feel cheated by these? I guess not. I feel cheated that I spent $10 on this. At least this one came with 2 other movies. I can't believe that some of these people make all these movies and apparently learn nothing. At least Ouija Shark 2 thought to up the silly factor from Ouija Shark 1, but comparing that with Shark Exorcist, which, funny enough, I did like paranormal stuff involving the devil back to back. This one learned nothing, going from one movie to another, with a 10-year gap between, and I'm pretty sure the people involved had been working on stuff between that time period, but there's no sign of any competence or anything in it. It's just very frustrating and boring to watch. I can really only recommend 2 for that Destin drinking game because they bring that up all the way to the end once that girl's introduced. And I guess the big selling point for them was the fact they got her or something, because they made sure that she got a lot of screen time and that she was the insert here instead of the shark. Like, there's no shots of the shark except a really crappy one of the shark that I have that I use in my intro, because that's not the shot in the main take. That's from the alternate cut, I'm pretty sure. If you enjoyed what you saw, leave a like, subscribe, and share the video. If you have something to say, feel free to do so in the comments below. And just a reminder, this was part 3 of Sharks Week 2024, so be sure to come back tomorrow for yet another video, and go ahead and catch up on the others if you managed to watch this one beforehand. I am Shyboy616 with Like a Shark to Land Shark, and we'll see you next time.